Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's career-puccino. I'm hoping to provide you with a snapshot, if you like, of something that helps postdocs and probably early career researchers in general. And today we're going to look at academic interviews and the 5 key questions, apologies for the percent sign, 5 key academic interview questions, and importantly, how to ask them. So hopefully you've come armed with your cup of tea or cup of coffee. Mine is always a coffee. And the idea is really to give you a little bit of a boost just for 20 minutes or so around this topic. So let's dive in. So my first question that is asked, and I probably should say that I've worked a lot one-to-one with people preparing them for interviews and often ask them what interview questions came up. And this one is a particularly good one and tends to be the opener in interviews. So how does this lectureship fellowship fit with your career aspirations? And the key to answering this one successfully is to partly give them what they need. So if you are applying for a lectureship, then telling them a little bit of what they want to hear, that you want to teach, that you want to do fantastic research, that you're going to bring money into the department. So that needs to be what they want to hear, but fitting that into your career plan. So thinking, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Are you looking to be senior lecturer, reader, whatever it might be? If you're applying for a fellowship, depending on how long the fellowship is, what comes next for you? So state the career aspirations in the positive. So in 5 years' time, I hope to be hold a senior lectureship in a UK university, and my research group will be focusing on this. In order to get there, I am going to apply for these grants. Should I be given this position? I look to be building up my teaching portfolio. I already have some teaching in this. And so this post really does let me flourish as an academic. So you want to end positively. Now, obviously, this question, this is talking about the rest of your life, and you could talk for days and days about the rest of your life, probably less helpful. So thinking, how long is your interview, and making sure that your question answers kind of fit into that time frame. So if it's a 15-minute interview, firstly, that's really short. But you're looking at sort of 1 to 1.5 minute answers, probably. If it's a bit longer, so around the half an hour to 45-minute mark, you can afford to do 2 or 3 minute answers, but make sure that you signpost as you go along. So this is about your career aspirations, headline with what you want to be in 5-10 years' time, and then tell us how you're going to get there, thinking about linking it to the post. So if it is a standard lectureship, you need to mention research, teaching and administration, and probably your professional development. If it's a teaching only lectureship, you need to think about how you're going to grow your teaching skills, all those sorts of things. So you need to relate it back to the post, even if it is a question about you, because they are looking for a prospective future colleague who can come in and do the job. So, yeah, making sure that it does link in. I love this question. What is your greatest achievement to date? So we've got the man on the mountain greeting the sky, and thinking, right, how does this fit into an interview question? Again, you need to pick an achievement that relates to the role. So quite often people might say, oh, my greatest achievement is, I don't know, my children. That's a very female answer, but it is one that I've heard. And that's great, but it doesn't really relate to the role. So thinking about what is your greatest achievement? Have you got a fantastic research achievement that you're really proud of? Have you nurtured a student who was perhaps finding it difficult and has then gone on to great academic success? Thinking about tying it to the role. And with the achievement, try and use something similar to the STAR framework, which is what was the situation? So I was a postdoc in the Department of Chemistry. What was the task? So that's ST. What was the task you were given? I was given the mentoring of an undergraduate student who'd come to do a project with us. They really struggled with this aspect of chemistry. What were the actions? So we've got STA. What were the actions that you took? So I found them a really good textbook and then sat down and went through a little bit each day until they really had a solid understanding of that. And then what were the results of that? The student really got up to speed brilliantly and was then able to take on their project with full gusto and started really enjoying it, which was a pleasure to see, but also came out with a distinction in their Viva. So I felt very proud of that. So you've answered it, you've given the result, you've tied it up in a little bow for people. So the STAR framework, situation, task, actions, results, it's really good for trying to do those mini case studies that something like this could really showcase what a fantastic potential research leader you are. Where will you be in 10 years' time? Slightly different to the career aspirations, but that was the first one was, how does this post fit in? So what part of the puzzle is it? Where will you be in 10 years' time? This one, you need a little bit of caveat. So you're applying to an organization. They might be hoping that you stay with them for 10 years. But we know that academia is a very mobile workforce and that we will move depending on what our needs are for our research and our careers. So trying to be optimistically realistic. So in 10 years' time, I hope to be holding readership at a research-intensive university. My research will be looking at, and then state what your research group would be looking at if you're doing that, doing research post, and perhaps giving an idea of the size of that or the challenges that you've overcome. So if you are, I don't know, in green energy or something similar, where do you hope to be in 10 years' time? So in 10 years' time, we will have solved what this fellowship is looking at, but we will have gone on to do X, Y, and Z. And that's quite nice because it takes the fellowship and there is legs beyond this. It's going to go on beyond. So that can be really, really quite powerful to try and, kind of tie it back to the current position, tie it back to what they want, but also be that optimistic, realistic researcher. People want to work with someone who's got ambition, who's got drive, who really knows where they want to go, and can excite people about it. If you can excite your interview panel, chances are you'll be able to excite the undergraduates that you're going to be teaching and various things like that. Okay, we're going to hop on to a couple of sort of student-orientated questions, partly because I know, or in my experience, the academics or postdocs are usually fine once you get them talking about their research. They love it. They're really animated. They're, yay, this is what we're doing. So they're fine when it comes to that. A little bit more tenuous when it comes to talking about their careers, which is why we focus on those previous ones. But they tend to be slightly less prepared for the teaching questions. And a typical lectureship in the UK will consist of a third teaching, a third research, and a third admin, other stuff. So teaching is a big part. It is no longer sufficient to be a stellar researcher and to just think, oh, well, they'll be an all right teacher. the way that the higher education is structured in the UK is that they're, we have paying customers as undergraduates. So, the demand for quality teaching has gone up. I think the pandemic has also really, really focused that. So thinking about having some of those STAR frameworks around teaching. And this is a very typical question. So what has been your most challenging teaching experience? The tendency here at the moment is to say, oh, well, the pandemic, full stop. And it's like, well, yes, pandemic affected us all. But yes, it involved lots of different things that needed to change with university teaching. What you need to do is pick a specific study that shows you in a good light, that shows that you can use modern tools, so online tools, things that make online courses interactive, all those sorts of things, student feedback, all need to be in the mix. So you need to use the language that they're expecting from a university teacher. So most challenging teaching experience probably was during the pandemic, but exactly what did you do? So during the pandemic, I had a class of first-year physicists to teach. We were looking at waves, and I was in charge of several of the lectures. What we did was put it online, but we made sure that we had an interactive point every 15 minutes to engage the students. I used a variety of tools, including Mentimeter, so that I could really engage the students and understand whether they were understanding the materials. I know that this was really valued by the students because in their feedback, not only did they rate the course highly, but they really went out of their way to say that the interactive points were the highlight of the lectures. So you've got, again, a nice package: situation, task, the actions that you took, and the results. It doesn't have to sound formulaic. It can sound quite natural, but you need some a variety of little mini case studies to talk about. So you could talk about difficult students. That might come up under research supervision, but it might also come up under teaching. So making sure that you might have a couple of examples up your sleeve in case they ask one, and then you've got another question that needs a different example. But your most challenging teaching experience needs to end with a positive. So it might be, how have you gone out of your way to explain a difficult concept? It might be how you created an extra seminar on data analysis because you found that the students were struggling. What you need to portray is that you are a teacher who reacts to feedback, who understands feedback, and who can be creative in their pedagogic approach to their teaching approach. So you highlighted a problem, you've then been proactive and solved it, and then hopefully have some fantastic results. So that's one way that you can build that in really nicely. Where do you think our students might struggle? And that our is the really, really important bit here. So your students, their students will be very specific to that university. So each university that I work with, and I work with a lot, has its own flavour, has its own way of teaching undergraduates, its own ethos, mission statement, etc., etc. So you might have taught extensively at your current university, and that's fantastic. But if you're applying to another university, you can't guarantee that those students will have the same issues with the topics that you teach as your current ones. So a great way to approach this and prepare, and all interviews need preparing, is to look at the student-facing web pages of that university. So what do they promise them? Is the degree tied to employability in certain sectors? Are they pushing people to go into research? Are they sort of promoting that? How do they sell the course? What do you need qualification-wise to come on the course? If you're teaching a second or a third year course, can people swap in from other degrees, or can they elect to do that on other degrees? So you effectively will have quite a mixed bag of students. Thinking about, sort of entry qualifications to degrees, it might be that they don't have to have maths, and yet you might be teaching quite a mathematical subject. So will you be picking some of that up? That might be worthwhile. It might be that people have taken foundation years to get onto the degree. So again, they might have their own struggles with some of the content. It's showing an awareness of who their students are. Again, this might tie into equality and diversity issues. So making sure that you understand, the mix of students, whether they are mostly local, as in local to that city, so they commute in every day, or whether they are staying at the university, or whether there is a significant component of overseas students. Again, all those things come into the mix. But the way you can best prepare for this is really have a look at who the students are, how they attract them. And I think it really opened my eyes when my own sons were applying to universities to look at those student-facing pages, very different to perhaps the natural places we would hang out, like the research profiles and the research groups of the department that we were looking into. So really do make sure that you've done your homework on that one. Okay, so those were my top 5 questions. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'll wait a couple of minutes in case there are any questions. But while I do that, other ways that I can help you if you're looking for interview prep, I can adept at academic interview prepping and question spotting. So just drop me a line and we can arrange something. If you're looking at applications, again, that is a service that I offer to help you hone your application in what is a very competitive and busy market. So there are plenty of ways to get hold of me, or just drop me an email via the channel that you're watching this on repeat. Okay, it doesn't look like there are any questions, so I will love and leave you today. Have a super, super week, and I will see you soon.